Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Transgender Show. I'm your host, Emily. Tonight, I'm excited to welcome to the show Penelope Alizarin Conley. Penelope is a mechanic, musician, influencer, and professional model. She is a trans woman, a single parent of two lovely children. Out since 2017 and on HRT since 2019, she always had a feeling she was different and definitely knew she didn't feel right in her body. She is now happy to be herself and show her support for others in the community. Everyone, welcome to the show, Penelope. Hello.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being on the show. It's so great to have you here.
Yeah, I was just spur of the moment. I figured I'd drop in.
Well, that's good. We just so happen to have a place for you. Jumping into your story with my favorite question, how did you choose your name?
It sounds ludicrous, but my first name just was always a name that was kind of hanging out in the back of my head for since I was a child. I don't know why it was there, but Penelope was just always there. Not Penny, not P, not like any kind of like shortened form of it. It was always just like, hmm, the name Penelope's really nice. I don't know why I think that. So when I was having my children, um, the name Penelope was there, but before my second child was born, we found out we were having a boy. So, well, can't name. Society would frown upon that. So we were like, well, now what are we gonna do? We came up with something else, luckily, and I had already come out by that point, but hadn't chosen a name, and I was like, you know what? It's all mine now. And alizarin it dates back from my art school days. Windsor and Newton have a copyright on a specific crimson red color called alizarin,
Hmm,
and that's where I got that from.
how fun. Um, Yeah, I love that. You mentioned it being a little strange or I forget the word that you use, but that it was always in your head. And I think that's just so fitting and so perfect that you always knew from the beginning. You just didn't have the understanding of why.
Yeah, I didn't have any kind of like cognitive reasoning at like 3 to be like thinking, oh, the name Penelope is really nice. I just shrugged it off and just like, oh, the name is just gonna hang out there. It would go away for years and then suddenly come back.
So when did you finally realize that you were trans, that that was the term that described who you were?
Oh boy, that is a I'm trying to think of how I can respond to the way it was asked. Because for me, finding out I was trans. See, I didn't really have a context of it when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
I was a very effeminate person prior to coming out. Anyways, I had done performances where I presented myself very femme. So it was not unusual for me to be like comfortable femme.
Mm-hmm.
So there've been many times where I've come and gone with the idea of how comfortable I am with how far I feel like it would be comfortable for me to go with that. I always knew that it gave me joy to present myself as femme, but it took me until 2017 to realize that that is when I'm at my most happy
Mm-hmm.
because I've had so many opportunities. I've been very fortunate to present myself femme and kind of play with the idea of 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 being femme. It wasn't until I was going on almost my second child, it was 2 months before he was born, where I told exactly one person, I wonder if I'm trans and would it be okay if I like spend a few days in women's clothes and see how that feels. It's just me and you. It was my former partner and I at the time. And fortunately, even though we're separated, my ex was like, yeah, sure, go for it. And I didn't have much to wear. I just had some scraps that were at the bottom of a dresser. So for some people, it's coming out of a closet. For me, it was coming out of a dresser. So it's basically the same thing, though. I've those clothes lived in my dresser for many years. They've traveled the world with me. Um, Always just kind of like I would pull that drawer out sometimes and just look at them and be like and like reminisce about those the times I got the chance to wear those things.
Hmm. And then
And
what was
then
it?
when I
What was it that was
sorry.
going on in 2017 that kind of prompted you to come out, or essentially what cracked your egg and told you this is something that you had to come out about and live full time?
Um, well, living full time didn't happen until about a year after that. Like I said, I wasn't sure yet whether or not I was a cross dresser, and that was like what was making me happy about wearing women's clothes and presenting them. I wasn't sure if like, oh, maybe I should pursue drag. Maybe that's just like I have a lot of fun wearing women's clothes because I love the performance of it. I didn't know. I really didn't. And it was a weird thing to not know, having spent so many years like going to high school in a dress just for, you know, S and G's, shits and giggles. I can say that here, right?
Yes.
Just for shits and giggles, and then getting promptly sent home in the '90s, because I'm a little bit older. So high school was not too friendly to me, having long hair and being the freaky weird kid that wears dresses every once in a while to school, wearing guy liner as they called it back then. So that was even before emo, like way like emo didn't even exist yet. So this we're talking like '93. So like way back then, and just being like, oh, just like, I saw Alice Cooper do it. And as I'm growing up, I'm like, oh, all my favorite artists are like gender bending, like just like androgynous people, like David Bowie. Wasn't much of a fan of Marilyn Manson though. So I had all these opportunities to kind of like feel the joy of trying it on for size,
Hmm.
but knowing that society, well, not knowing, but feeling that society would be like, you can't do that all the time. You'll upset the squares.
So at that time, when you came out, or just before then, did you have a particular role model or confidant to that you could talk to about it?
I had no one. Zero.
Mm.
Nothing. Nil. Not a person in the world to talk to about it. I had friends in the queer community. I intentionally waited an entire year before telling them because, again, like I said, I was trying on the literally trying on the clothes
Hmm.
and and being very comfortable with it out in the privacy of my own home. I had my little family, my two kids, and my partner at the time, and that was enough for me. And I knew I had to tell some people. So in 2018, the next year, I selected a few people that I knew that were very good, strong voices in the queer community that I personally knew
Hmm.
that I could trust, like disclose this. Hey, I've spent an entire year privately living full time as female. Like, and then like I would go say food shopping and like quickly have to take those clothes off. I wasn't ready to be publicly out.
Yeah.
What should I do? How should I approach this? Not like a lot of them were just like congratulatory, but offered no advice. They were just like, yeah, if you need someone to talk to, but then like I'd like it was like in this little message board. I'd be like, what about this? What about that? And like they'd be like, oh yeah, you can have some of my clothes, or which is fantastic. I'm not wearing them anymore. You can have them, and that's great. But that would be it. It wouldn't be like, hey, you want to meet up and have, tea or coffee or whatever it is you drink. Um, if you really want to talk about this, or do you want to come over and we could sit down? Like, this is my, I, a person in the queer community that you respect, I want to take that responsibility of like, if you have anything, I'm here for you moment. Didn't get that. I didn't get that, sadly. That didn't exist for me. So I had one person who I wished could have been more there, but her mother was ill, and I bet she, if anybody, she would have done it if the circumstances were more in her favor, but it wasn't good timing for her.
Mm-hmm.
I bet she would have done it, but sadly, due to the timing, it wasn't going to work.
So when it came time to come out more publicly, I'm assuming first before we get to that, that you came out to your partner at that time because you were dressing full time at home, right? So it was when they were there.
Yeah, my partner at the time was there, and my partner is still to this day a drag performer. So this is nothing new to them. They're used to, like, all of their friends are in that community, and that's how we met, is
Mm,
in that community. So, like I said, I've been so lucky to be involved in the community, kind of like as an outlier. Not really so much, really putting a lot of myself into it, just being like, yeah, I'm here. I'm a, you know, you know, clothes wearing instead of card carrying. I'm thinking of another way. Like, I'm a clothes wearing member of this little enclave here, but I'm gonna hang back. Um, and so I wouldn't say it was a shock to my ex, but it definitely took some getting used to. It definitely did not help our relationship, sadly. It was one of many contributing factors. It wasn't a direct contributing factor, but we'll get into that later. But yeah, the reason I waited an entire year is I knew that if I just jumped out of a cake and said surprise, that is going to rock a lot of worlds,
uh,
and that's just not how I roll.
mm,
I I'd like to think that I consider people's feelings. So I tiptoed into it for their benefit. So basically, I was sitting there suffering so that they would be comfortable.
And
And and
what was your method for coming out then? What did you do? What sort of methods did you employ to do that from your perspective, like to honor them and make it easy on the people around you?
well, like I said, it took me 2 years to fully come out. The we'll get skip to 2018. I told that small group that I was discussing about, and hoping I would get some sort of input, because I had nothing. By this point, I'm full time, and so, like, I was finishing my degree at the time, and I was presenting full time at school. I was like, you know what, 2018 September, my last semester. I only have three. I have until December. I don't actually have to go the January to May. I graduate in December instead. That's just like when I entered. That's just like how the cookie crumbled.
Hmm.
So I was like, well, I have from September to December to live full time, even at school now. I'm never going to see these people again. I get to test the water here and see how, you know, I'm going to feel, whether I'm going to be comfortable being like this in society, or if I've got a lot more work to do and I need a lot more resources. I was very fortunate. The college I went to was very queer friendly, LGBTQ plus friendly, and they were just. I went up to my first professor on the first day. I didn't exactly look like this, but I was wearing women's clothes and makeup, and I was like,
Oh, we lost your audio. I can't hear you. Sorry, folks, just to let you know, we're going to take a quick break. We've lost our guest audio, so hang tight and we'll be right back. All right, y'all, and we're back. Thank you so much for your patience. I'll bring back
Sorry.
on our guest. Hi, Penny.
Sorry about that, folks. I got a phone call and got booted. So I'm back.
That's what happens when we
Anyway,
have big important guests on, so it's totally understandable. It seems like you remember where we were in the question, so please go ahead and
yeah.
continue.
So yeah, 2018, I was ready to live publicly full time. Um, but I hadn't told like everyone, just the people that I was at school with, like handled it very well, which was very nice. Um, and so I just like kind of quietly, publicly was out, but not like not everyone knew. Just like if I just happened to be walking down the street and run into someone like, "Hi," and they would call me my dead name, not knowing. It's like, "Oh, it's Penelope now." Uh, you know, ta-da. So, and again, very lucky. So, with the comfort of taking it very slowly and having being very, very lucky that the majority of the people I would just like encounter that I've either known in the past or have met relatively recently were being very nice to me, and with the added comfort that my ex is heavily involved in the LGBTQ plus community. Um, I like everybody was just very sweet, and the only troubles I had were like with my birth family and with a few idiots. But so by the time I finished college, I was ready to start taking HRT medications. So in February of 2019, that's when it all started.
Nice.
And I've been going strong ever since. And I came out publicly to everyone on Facebook in October 2019.
Nice. That's a nice, easy way to do it, right? Just once you get to the point of you've gotten some of the key people covered, now it's like, okay, shotgun approach. Here's what it is, everybody. Do with it what you will.
Yeah, for me it was much more comfortable to like I already knew it was something I definitely wanted to do in 2017. I knew it was something I definitely wanted to do in 2001. So taking my time with it, doing research, making sure that like I'm in an environment where I'm going to be safe. Those were important to me. I have children to protect. I had to make sure that they were going to be safe. So that was very important to me to make sure that who um, whomever I'm around is going in my life full time is going to be safe. So yeah, it was worth it. It was torture, but it was worth it.
So in that whole process, who was the most difficult for you to come out to?
My parents for sure.
Hmm.
My parents for sure. Um, my father initially was like, "Oh yeah, nothing shocks me." My older brother said the same thing, and my stepmother and my brother kind of kept quiet about it. And my father's been okay. Our relationship was never perfect. Um, that's maybe a story for later on in the conversation. But my my relationship with my stepmom is just like, she took over when my mom wasn't around, so she's very much a mother figure. Um, but she, and hopefully she'll never see this, but who knows, she might. I might as well say it. Might as well be honest about it. She has never been comfortable with it. She has never called me Penelope, and I don't think she ever will. And I think she's even said as much. So my older brother is the same. My older brother's just like, no, not doing it. Sorry. It's like, oh, that or just like, oh, if I'm gonna do it, it's gonna take me a long time. Well, it's been 5 years, bro. It's like I have tits now. There's no going back.
Yeah,
So
right.
like,
Well, and
I've grown exponentially both up here and here, if you catch my drift. So like it's there's no going back at this point. There was never any going back then to that, you having to constantly feel like you have to protect me because I'm getting beat up every day for being the fag. Sorry if I'm using that awful word, but that may as well have been tattooed on my head.
Hmm. Now I
So
know,
like,
yeah, there's a couple things, and I'll get to that word in a second. I've got a story that I love to tell about that, and we'll see if I can keep it short. But we had a comment in chat that was, isn't it surprising how family is so often the biggest problem when it comes to coming out and acceptance?
yeah,
It's very sad that we get those comments of I can't or I won't ever call you that, and I don't know where that comes from.
I think it's be there's I'm
Hmm.
speculating here. Perhaps it comes from their inability to feel comfortable with someone they spent their entire lives with, building a relationship with that specific thought in their mind of who they wanted you to be,
Hmm.
not who you actually are, but who they wanted you to be. You could be like a millionaire. You could grow up and like, find a lottery ticket on the ground at 16 years old, and you're quietly not telling your parents that you want to come out. Now you have the money to do whatever you want. You just don't have the independence. But like, you can have all the money in the world, and it's not going to change the how your parents envisioned what they wanted for you. So they're either going to accept you and grow with you, or they're not. That is just, there's no gray area. And if there is gray area, you already have your answer. It's not. It's
Yeah.
not a it's not a positive. It's always a negative if you have a gray area. Because if they have to think about it, if they have to adjust, if they have to be like, give me some time. No, there is no time. It's either now or never.
Yeah. Did you have anybody through that process that accepted you or supported you in a way that surprised you?
Yes. It took me a while to think of whether or not it's appropriate. My little brother. So since we're here and we're being honest, my little brother is a Catholic priest. So I imagined, with me not being a religious person, it was very much a surprise to everyone that he got to his journey in life. He was ordained, and everyone thought he was insane. They just didn't tell him that to his face. Like, they'd be like, in hushed tones, like, that kid wants to be a priest. What's wrong with that kid? Like, why would they want to choose that life? But then when he became ordained, suddenly everyone's like, "Oh my God, congratulations! It's so fantastic! Oh my God, what a man of pure faith you are!" And wow, just all these lovely accolades, and it was fantastic. And like, even I'm in tears because he's my little brother, and I'd love to say that I always had his back, but by the time he was in middle school, I'm like a lot older than him. So I'm starting to live my adult life. So, and he's just starting his journey towards the priesthood. Right as I'm exiting, he's entering.
Hmm.
He's going in one door, I'm going out another. Um, so that closeness that we could have had all those years, with the strained relationship with my parents when I was young, I felt forced out the door, so I left. So our relationship, both my brothers and I, ended. And I distanced myself from them because instead of embracing the freaky weird kid, they chastised me for it. It wasn't that I was like setting fires to something or being horrible. I just would be getting sent home for wearing black nail polish, or I'd be sent to the principal's office for wearing a Black Sabbath t-shirt. Stupid stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Really. Stupid. Or like I'd come to school and my friend will have done all of my makeup and I look like a girl and getting sent home for that. And like I'm sitting there loving every minute of it, and my parents just like, you clean that off right now, you freak. Like people are gonna beat you up and judge you your whole life. You want people to do that to you? And of course you're gonna say no. Of course you're gonna say no. But this like drive inside me drove me to be who I am today.
Mm-hmm.
Just as much as it drove my little brother to be who he is today. And so when he confronted me, things were dead between my ex and I had the kids with me in his rectory. And we're sitting there in the basement and they're running around, crawling under tables, being toddlers. It's fantastic. They had a blast. My little brother said that like this is an interesting journey you've chosen. It's like I didn't choose it. It was an imperative. And I that's a quote that should go on my tombstone if ever I get one. It's not a choice, it's an imperative. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, when I was younger, I don't know if you'll remember this kid. He grew up with everybody judging him. He made some choices in his life that everyone thought he was crazy. But at the end of the day, when he grew up and he lived out his dream, now everybody respects him. Everybody listens to what he has to say and values him because he stuck to his guns and he's living his truth. And he's like, well, who's that? And I was like, it's you, you dumbass. I'm talking about you. You chose the priesthood, not a path many people choose these days. You stuck with it from the time you were a little kid and you never let go of your dreams. You knew what you were, you knew what you wanted, you knew your path. And nothing in this world was going to tear you away from that. That's how I feel right now. Nothing in this world is going to tear me away from the path that I was meant to take. And he's like, I hadn't thought of it that way. And from that moment, we've been very close. And it's just an unusual, like, odd couple scenario. Priest and a trans woman. But I would like to think more it's like he tolerates me, I tolerate him. But like he's never ever been like, I've changed my mind, or like, oh, it makes me so uncomfortable, or like I'm not going to do that. He's never once done that ever.
That's wonderful. And it's funny that the way you got there was not like his realization. I thought that was sort of where it was going, of like his realization of the path that he had been on, and the similarities or something in there. But no, you had to you had to point that out to him, and then it all kind of lined up for him. He's like, oh, okay. And now he accepts it. That's
Yeah,
great.
screaming no, you dumbass, in the basement of a rectory.
So then, you come out, and for a lot of us, the first thing that we need to do at that point, like you said, you didn't have anybody as a guide or to look up to, is we look for community. What was your
That's true.
experience at first trying to find community? And were you successful with it?
No, not at all. I was a complete and utter failure at it. Like I said, I reached out to a small group of people in 2018, hoping that I could get some built, like literally asking them, like, how do I start building a community? What do I do? Like panicking. They offered a little bit of advice, but it just like fizzled out, dead. So I became too scared to ask them, like I was a burden. And I probably was. They're like, "What the fuck?" Like, this gets dropped in our lap. Like I'm sitting here trying to have sex with my partner, and this gets dropped in my life. Who knows what they were doing at the time. So, you know, I'm not their child. I'm not their responsibility. I'm not. They have no. There's nothing written in stone where they have to take care of poor, sweet little baby Penelope. It's like they've got their own lives. They've got their own problems. They're in the community. They have to worry about being queer or gender fluid every fucking day. Last thing they need is another thing tacked on top of that. some friend that needs like helpful advice. Like, what am I going to do? I barely even know what I'm doing. So I can't say that's what they said, but I can only assume because they disappeared pretty fast.
Hmm.
And so I didn't know where to turn. Facebook was like, I've never really trusted Facebook. It's been very helpful in many ways, but also very kind of creepy in many ways. So I I I looked on forums and I was like, these are gross. um, the only time I would see the most amount of people like me was on porn sites, and that's it. I didn't have anything else, and I tried looking. So like I had my doctor and I had a therapist, and that's it. And the therapist would just be like, "Oh, how are you feeling today?" Or the doctor would be like, "Well, we got to run another blood test to see what your levels are," and that would be the sum of it. That's it. All the while, my relationship to my former partner was dying. It,
Hmm.
it was a slow and painful death for both of us because we both knew it was never going to work, but we let it drag out because the kids, they say, uh, the kids had to suffer through us having arguments and had to suffer through me, you know, trying to take care of them while I've spending an entire day in heels. Bad idea for the first time. Like wearing heels on stage is one thing, but all day I'd never done that. Does anybody do that? That's insane. But anyways, I only wear heels because I'm paid to now. Not like I would never wear them normally. But unless I felt like it. But anyways, but only for a small amount of time because they kill your fucking feet. In fact, I can show you my ankles all messed up from
Oh,
heels.
I love my heels,
Um,
but yeah, it's every person for themselves. Depends on how you feel
so
about it.
I had nothing. So when my ex and I finally separated at the end of 2019, and I was on my own, um, I really kind of had to scramble there for a while because now we're having to sort out how we're going to handle the kids. Like now I'm on my own like I'm fully on my own income. It's not half and half anymore. And it was never really half and half because my ex makes a lot of money. It was always me doing like as much childcare as I could possibly get in while going to school to get a degree in hopes I would get a better career. It never panned out that way. We separated before that could even happen. So there's a lot of it like animosity. It's like, well, like you're always working. Well, you're always with the kids. So that was hard to deal with while you're trying to come out. I'm fully out at this point. Like I have no clothes that are bought by me. Everything is under my ex's wallet because I didn't have any money.
Hmm.
And my ex was nice enough to help me out, but like our budget is like mostly kids. So like diapers and food for the kids and like taking the kids to places like daycare or not daycare, sorry. Taking the kids to places like fun place for kids to play that costs money or
Hmm.
this, that, and the other thing. Taking them on trips if we can. The budget is astronomical raising kids. So when we separated, I had no idea where to go. Now we're looking at early 2020 before the pandemic really hit hard and, having to go through court and never really even getting a chance to be fully out. Never really even getting a chance because like I'm entangled with all this personal mess and now a pandemic. So I didn't take it as being robbed. I decided to see what I can do to raise my visage so that I can draw people to me because n- no one was coming to me. I always like my whole life I've always had to come to people like, hey, can you like do this or hey, what about this or hey, will you be my friend or like you want to go play music? It's always me doing the approaching. If I had a photograph for every year of my life of how I've met all of my interactions in all of my life. It's been through me approaching them. I got to you through Mimi, but I approached Mimi.
Mm.
So there you go.
Hmm.
So like I was tired of doing that. So I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna put myself out there. If anybody wants to come to me, they're welcome. I'm not gonna put up walls. I'm not gonna block people. I'm just gonna like whatever shitstorm comes my way, whether it be eggplant emojis and dick pics all day. So be it. Because like I don't know where else to turn. So I put myself out on Instagram. 3 months of doing that, and my friends just like, I like some of your photography. Like, you want to come out to New York and like meet some people I know? I think you'd be great as a model. Like, no, I'm like 41-year-old at the time. 41-year-old, like barely knows what she's doing. Like, you sure? It's like, well, worst case scenario, they help guide people in how to be like an influencer, and you could try that on for size and grow your brand, so to speak. I'm like, this is stupid. I'm gonna suck at this. I have ADHD. Like, how I'm not going to succeed at this. Um, so they literally gave me a bag of clothes when I went into Manhattan in the middle of a pandemic before they shut the city down.
Mm.
They're like, here's a bag of clothes. Take some better photos of yourself. Try your best. Here's some settings on your phone that you can use. Do not use filters. We will know, and they will be rejected. I was like, okay. So I waited a week, which was like very bold. I waited a week, and I was like, all right, I guess I'll try this out. And there was a courtyard at my old apartment. I was like, oh, it's springtime. No one's around. The city is empty because of the pandemic. I'll wear my mask out to the courtyard, set up my camera, and when it's time to take the photo, take it off, make sure there's no little mask lines, and see how they turn out. They actually came out very good. And like I was just like, do models pose like this? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I sent that to my friend. So she's like, these are actually pretty good. Let me see what I can do with them. And they liked every one of them. And then they kept sending me more clothes and more clothes. I'm like, I'm supposed to keep doing photography, and they're like, you're actually pretty good at it. Keep it up.
Hmm.
And they're trying to like market me, and then a year of that goes by where I'm making very little money on it, and just getting a lot of really awesome free clothes. Um, and then a real agent hit up my friends, was like, hey, like, you've been working with this girl for a while. Like, you think she's ready for basically the big time? Oh, she's ready for the big time. So I'm very thankful to her.
Wow.
And
That's.
and from there, I just kind of took it on my
Mm-hmm.
own. So by November of last year, me as a brand just like blew up. I like went from like maybe 7,000 followers to like 10,000 overnight. Like over a few like pictures of just me doing the same pictures I've been doing for
Hmm.
and then I have no idea why, no clue to this day why it just like kind of just exploded out of nowhere, and then it's still exploding.
Let's get to the big ethereal question that I told you about in the pre-interview. What does transition look like to you, or on a deep level, what does it mean to you?
Contentment. There's only really that one word for it. Contentment. It's a simple word. It seems like it's not enough. Contentment is very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to think that it's very important to other trans folk out there, because when you reach just the point in your life where like you're like, I'm there. There's like, I've transitioned, past tense. Like, I'm here now. Like you can finally just like relax
Yeah.
and not have to like, oh, do they know? Or like, being like feeling like you're being clocked, or constantly being misgendered. Contentment. Contentment, knowing that, like, I can walk out of this house, not me, I'm just saying, the familial I, one could walk out of their house as is, very little work involved, just like picking the newspaper off the ground, so to speak, and be fine with themselves as they are, even in their baggiest, shittiest clothes. That they're that happy with themselves that they can wave to the neighbor too. Contentment.
Hmm. How far along are you in your process, in your journey?
I'm almost at the finish line. I have an FFS consult coming up probably in a few weeks. This will be my second one of two. Um, they're only asking me to do the second. The first was just like, so, what brings you here kind of deal. And the second was like, well, here's the procedure. This is what we're going to do. This is your recovery time. This is your post recovery time, yada, yada, yada. And then the actual FFS surgery. Once that's done, I'm done. I don't have no desire to pursue any other further surgeries. And then I feel like I will be just done.
Have your goals shifted as you've moved through your transition? When you started, did you have like a list of the things that you wanted to get done that have somehow changed as you've gone through?
Um, yes and no. My goal was just to survive, really, just to survive and do my best to thrive if I can. Um, I'd like to think that I'm not exactly thriving, but I am definitely surviving. Um, I just that what we were talking about before. My goal has always been just contentment, just like figure out, like, now that I am comfortable living my truth, like, I want to get to a point where, like, I could just do that all the time without having to think about it all the time.
Mm.
So that goal has never changed, though. That has always been my goal, is just to, like, I want to be able to leave the house and confidently leave the house as a woman and not ever have to doubt myself ever again. And that process is nearing the finish line. But I didn't think that I would get breast implants, but I did. I didn't think that I'd be getting facial feminization surgery, but I'm pretty darn close to getting it. Um, I didn't think that I would find my community on Instagram of all places, but I did. None of those were planned. Those were just kind of like, I found out that I could get top surgery, like I can negotiate with that with my insurance in a reasonable way. And I was like, wow, I would be looking a gift horse in the mouth. Like, I'm an A borderline B at the time, and literally being handed these things, and how could I not? That's the way I looked at it. It's like, you know what? I sit here and I bitch and moan about trying to be, just survive and thrive as a woman and a trans woman at the same time. I'm not going to be able to do that if, like, the medication can only do so much. I'm skinny. I've always had a fast metabolism. Like, I just can't gain the right kind of weight to grow breast tissue, no matter what medications I'm on. I'm on so many. Um, so I it took me a while once I got the implants to be okay with them. I actually didn't like them at first,
Hmm.
but it's at the end of this month it'll be 1 year,
And
and
what was it about that, the implants themselves that kind of didn't work for you?
I have a very funny way to start it off, and then it's gonna get dark. Um, when I went in to see my surgeon, it was pretty fast. I put in the application like in 2019, because I knew there would be a long waiting list. And I figured it'd be even longer with COVID. But it turns out because nobody was going to the hospital during COVID, people were canceling. So all of these appointments were suddenly opening up. And so I was finally able to see a surgeon. And he's like, what brings you in today? Kind of deal. And I'm like, well, I'm here because I want top surgery. I'm a transgender woman. I've been transitioning for, what seems like a while now. And, after several blood tests and multiple medications, I feel like there's only so far I can go to develop my body. I think that maybe if I got like small breast implants, I wouldn't have to worry about it all the time. I don't want stripper tits. I said that to a professional board certified surgeon to his face, and he laughed hysterically. He thought it was one of the funniest things he's ever heard. He's like, and this is like, some guy from like Eastern Europe. He's just like, like laughing like the Count from Sesame Street. He thought it was hilarious. It's like stripper tits. That's a first. And I'm like, no one's ever said that here. He's like, nope. No one's ever referred to breast implants as stripper tits in my office. And I'm like, glad to be the first. So, that whole process happened. And then a few months later, next thing you know, I'm on the operating table. But the darkness in the story is that 2 days before my surgery, my girlfriend broke up with me. The girl I'd been seeing for a couple months prior, like when my ex and I broke up, I started seeing this girl, and then it got a little very serious and very, very serious. And then all of a sudden, gone, like it never happened. In fact, I was in Boston getting a COVID test because it's a requirement 2 days before surgery to get the COVID test. It's not anymore, but it was then last year. And I literally just walked out of the rapid COVID test facility with my happy little negative result and wearing double masks. So this is like, there's no fucking way I'm getting COVID 2 days before surgery. And I get a call from my then girlfriend saying that like I can't see you anymore. I'm like, why? She's like, I'm not ready. And I'm like, so I sat there consoling her as best I could. All the while she broke up with me and I'm consoling her. That's very typical of me to like ignore how I feel. And just like comforted her the best I could. And we got off the phone, and I had to go, an hour back home with that information, sit with it a whole 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then within another 4 hours, I was going to be on an operating table by myself without anybody to take care of me, because that was her promise to me, that she would, because you need someone to be that, your aftercare person.
Yeah.
For at least 2 days. So I recuperated by myself. Nobody was there.
Yeah, because you're not supposed to reach and grab for things or lift anything.
Too
Oof.
bad Penelope had to do that. I had to
No.
do everything on my own. Everything.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, like, I didn't get any tears or didn't have any serious complications. The only negative downside to breast implants, and this is something people don't think about going into them, is whatever way your breasts are developing prior, they will continue to develop. And also, adding on top of that, fair warning, nobody's nipples and breasts are even. Mine are very askew. Not the breasts, because the implants themselves are perfect, clearly. But it's just like, I didn't know that the way I was developing prior to them, that my nipples were askew. But apparently that's fairly normal. Some people have it way worse than I do. And I've learned to live with it. There's nothing I can do about it. The surgeon won't touch it. He's like, I'm not an aesthetic surgeon. I put the breast implants in. That's what I do. That's all I do. And they're perfectly lined. They're perfectly symmetrical. like they're where they're supposed to be. If your nipples are off kilter, you have to hire somebody. Something I did not know. Your breast tissue also continues to develop, well, after the fact if you
Hmm.
continue to stay on your medications, which I was. But it wasn't going like rapid fire, like boom. Um, I wasn't taking progesterone, and then I got prescribed progesterone a few months after surgery. Um, Went to a fitting for my new bra company that I've been advertising, only to find out I grew another cup size. So I went from an AB to a C to a D. Now I'm almost a double D. And I didn't do anything. I swear to you, I didn't get more breast implants. They just kind of like the progesterone just made me explode.
Still waiting for that to happen. I've been on progesterone for a while, but our bodies are all different and they all take a different, they're all in a different timeline for what's going to happen and when it's going to happen.
I would say the breast growth was pretty shocking, but the more shocking thing is, I'm sure other people can empathize. My whole life, being teased for being skinny. So when I'm transitioning, no matter what kind of tight, no matter how tight the jeans are, there's those little like bulges on the sides for hips.
Hmm.
They're not there anymore. Thank you, progesterone. They used to be there prior to November.
Nice.
Crazy how that goes, huh?
Yeah. Also, still waiting for the redistribution of fat. I just recently changed some medication, so hopefully we'll see that start
Well,
happening.
you look great to me.
Oh well, thank you. Um. So, what are as we wrap up this section here? What is your favorite thing that you've learned on your journey?
Sometimes you have to go it alone. In life, that may be all you get. It's cruel, awful, and there are times where it literally has me on my knees sobbing, but sometimes you got to do it on your own.
Hmm. And the last question, what advice do you have to pass on to young or closeted trans folks out there?
Take it easy on yourself. Be kind to yourself. Transition takes a long fucking time. Transition for anything could mean your entire life. That's what I have to say to them, because I thought I had years to think. I knew I was wanted to come out 20 years before I did. Hid it away. But then when I was ready to come out, I can't say what I did was right or wrong, but I feel for me that worked the best is to just don't rush into any. That's not that's not what I want to say. Be patient. It will happen. Whatever you think your goal, that your whatever you imagine your best self to be, you will get there. You'll get there. It's going to probably take a little bit longer than you might like, but you will get there.
Penelope Alizarin Conley, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story. It was great having you here with us.
It was wonderful being here. I'm still in awe that I was even asked. Um, I'm I'm very thankful. Thank you.